At our number 10 spot, we have the Church of St. Mary the Virgin. The Church of St. Mary the Virgin is located in the small village of Cleophil, and it has a pretty dark past to it. The origins of the church can be traced back to the 16th century when it was first built to serve the spiritual needs of the local community. Over the years, the church fell into disrepair and was eventually abandoned. It wasn't until the 1840s that it was finally restored and made usable again, although it was rebuilt in a slightly different location from its original site. The reopening of the church sparked a flurry of rumors and legends that have continued to this day. One such story claims that the church was not built in proper alignment with Jerusalem, thereby deconsecrating the soil. Another story alleges that the church was built atop a former leper colony, further contributing to its dark reputation. But it was really the events of the 1960s that truly made the Church of St. Mary the Virgin very famous. In 1963, reports surfaced that a black mass had been held within its walls by local Satanists. According to these accounts, the graves of 6 women were dug up and their skeletons were used to perform necromancy. Furthermore, it was said that one of the skeletons were left behind inside of the church, adding more to its eeriness. These events were followed by several other strange occurrences in the area, including the death of several cows and the ritualistic killing of a cockerel. As a result of these events, the church's congregation dwindled and many worshippers abandoned it out of fear. Today, the Church of St. Mary the Virgin is no longer in use and just serves as a haunting reminder of its dark and mysterious past. At our number 9 spot, we have Egg Hill Church. Egg Hill Church in Pennsylvania is known for its eerie history and is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in the state. According to the legend, the church's minister turned on his entire congregation in the late 19th century, killing them all during a Halloween service. The story goes that the minister poisoned the bread and wine being passed around during the service, and as his congregation suffered, the children playing in the rooms below ran upstairs to see the final moments of their parents. The minister is said to have then hung himself near the altar. Many believe that the ghost of the minister now haunts the abandoned church, while others believe that it is the ghost of his victims that still roam the halls. Despite the grisly nature of the story, there is no actual evidence to support this claim, and the story is likely nothing more than an urban legend. Well, at least we hope so. Some paranormal investigators have visited the site and claim to have experienced strange and frightening phenomenon. Number 8, Ness Church. Ness Church is a former Norwegian church that has now become a collection of ruins and is a popular spot for ghost hunters. The church is known for its unusual effect on electronic devices, causing them to completely shut down. The most popular myth surrounding the ghostly presence in the church is a priest named Jacob Christian Finnegan, who served there from 1800 to 1837. Now, there are 2 versions of the story about his fate. One states that he and his children were killed by an evil gang who looted the church, while the other one says that he personally put his children behind brick walls and enclosed them in it. Regardless of the accuracy of either story, the screams of the children are often heard and accompanied by sightings of the priest's ghostly figure. It is said that he will stalk and follow those who come to the church, causing them a sense of unease. If you visit the church alone, it is believed that the ghostly priest may attack and cause harm to you. Although he may not have been evil in life, it seems that he certainly is now. Number 7, the Chapel of the Cross. The Chapel of the Cross in Madison, Mississippi is on the grounds of the estate that the wealthy Johnson family had once owned. The churchyard also served as the final resting place of Helen Johnson's fiance, Henry, who died in a duel just days before their wedding. Ever since Helen's death in 1916, visitors have reported seeing her ghost near the cemetery on certain nights, looking as if she is trying to visit her fiance's grave. The church is also known for other ghostly sightings such as faces in the windows, ghostly children passing through the gates, and the laughter of a madman. But in and around this church, the figure of Helen can be seen walking around, and in some rare cases, so too can the spirit of Henry can be seen with Helen. Henry's grave is located in the cemetery, but there is no documentation of what Helen's grave's whereabouts, which could explain the recent sightings of both of them. Visitors can sit on the bench near Henry's grave and talk to him, but really, I don't know who would volunteer to do that. Number 6, St. Munchens Church. St. Munchens Church in Dublin, Ireland is a historic place of worship founded in the year 1095 and located behind the Four Courts on Church Street near the Jameson Distillery in Smithfield. The most fascinating aspect of the St. Munchens Church lies beneath the church in its burial vault, where the mummified remains of many influential families from the 17th, 18th, and 19th century can be found. And they say that you can hear the disembodied whispering voices from the mummies entombed in these vaults. They are home to the legendary Shears brothers, who were Republican revolutionaries convicted of high treason, as well as the Earls of Leitrim and the death mask of Wolfe Tone. The vaults contain highly decorated coffins, and the mummies are on display due to natural deterioration. The most notable mummies in the vault are the Big Four: the Unknown, the Thief, the Nun, and the Crusader. One of the mummies, believed to be a soldier who returned from the Crusades, is said to bring good fortune to those who touch his finger. However, visitors are no longer encouraged to touch the mummies, as the head of the Crusader was once stolen and the display was temporarily suspended. Some visitors have reported eerie experiences in the vault, such as hearing whispers and feeling watched by unseen hands. Despite recent scientific and historical research disputing the stories surrounding the Crusader and the Thief, the legend adds to the excitement of visiting the vault at St. Munchens Church, and the only way to find out if this place is truly haunted is to probably visit it for yourself. In the hub of our list, we have the Norwich Cathedral. Nestled in the heart of the bustling city of Norwich in England, the Norwich Cathedral is a fascinating monument in history and religion. Its construction began in 1096, 30 years after the Battle of Hastings, which saw the Norman conquest of England. The cathedral originally built as a Catholic church, but its rich history is not without its controversy, as Norman architects destroyed several Saxon places of worship in order to lay its foundations. Then in 2015, tourist Carrie Launders captured a photo that sent shockwaves to the paranormal community. The photo appears to show the ghostly figure of a medieval bishop captured in all its spectral glory. This photo was widely covered in both British and US tabloids, and Launders is convinced that she managed to capture the apparition of one of the cathedral's many eternal residents. This bishop is not the only ghostly figure that is said to haunt the cathedral. It is believed that the spirits of executed lollards also roam the cathedral grounds. These lollards, who held heterodox religious beliefs, were burned at the stake, and their chalk pits, which were used for their executions, eventually became part of the cathedral. Number 4. St. Mary's Church. This 3-foot tall wood carving of a devil is now located in the Swansea Museum in Wales, but before this, it stood on top of a building looking down at the St. Mary's Church in Swansea. This wood carving was created all the way back in the 1890s when a church in the area decided to undergo some big renovations. However, the renovations would be put on a hold and another outsider would be put on the job, causing many locals to be angered. One local was so angry he decided to buy the property around the church and construct buildings with this wood carving sitting on top of them, staring down at the church. The architect is reputed to have cursed the church by saying, quote, "When your church is destroyed and burnt to the ground, my devil will remain laughing." So when World War II hit, a German blitzkrieg hit the area and the church was left to burn down with the devil carving on top of the building staring down at it. Nowadays, the devil is kept at the local museum where it's still said to be facing the direction of the newly constructed church in hopes that it will burn down once again. Number 3. St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Founded in the 19th century, St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Key West, Florida has seen its fair share of destruction over the years. From hurricanes to floods, regardless, it always has managed to rise from the ashes and endure. While the church itself may not be actually haunted, its nearby cemetery is home to some of the most intriguing ghost stories you'll ever hear. John Fleming, the church's benefactor, is said to be one of the most active spirits in the cemetery. It's believed that his ghost haunts the church's grounds, often accompanied by a thin white vapor. The reason for his restlessness is said to be due to the fact that his headstone was used in the construction of the church, a decision that went against his final request that his grave not to be disturbed. The cemetery is also home to the restless spirits of his former inhabitants, who were laid to rest there many years ago. In 1928, a devastating hurricane tore through the cemetery, scattering bones and remains everywhere. So you can see how a lot of these spirits probably were disturbed. Some of these bones were even found in nearby trees and on the ground, left to rot. What makes the cemetery even more haunting is the fact that it was built on top of an older Semono burial ground. It is said that the spirits of the Spanish and American settlers buried there, along with the spirits of the Semonos, now haunt the area surrounding the church grounds. Definitely a church you would want to pray well before even entering the area, let alone inside of it. Number 2. The Satanic Purple Church. In the town of Spencer, Oklahoma, there are the remains of an old church with stairs leading to a basement known as the Purple Church. Locals claim that this place was used for devil worship and forms of witchcraft and even animal sacrifices. Others even claim that when a full moon coincides with a Saturday, Satanists will sacrifice virgins here at this church. Apart from that, before you enter, you will be met with various satanic purple pentagrams and symbols. If you happen to stumble upon this area for some reason, don't be surprised to see animal carcasses scattered around, as they are probably used in some form of ritual. The issue about this place is that people may have not been only chased by spirits, but instead by men in robes looking to probably use them in their next ritual. So be sure to get permission if you decide to step foot in this haunted place, and if not, just avoid this place altogether. At our number 1 spot, we have the St. George Church. This creepy looking church was built in the 14th century and can now be found in the Czech town of Lukova. The now abandoned St. George Church is not only menacing on the outside, but also on the inside. However, after years of preaching the word of God, the church was eventually closed down in the 1960s. Ever since its closure, many visitors now claim that it is now the home to many different spirits and demonic entities. When the church's roof collapsed in 1968, the residents didn't board it up immediately, believing it was a bad omen. Instead, services were held outside of the church. Despite this, residents wanted it to be restored, so an artist was hired to turn it into an arts installation in order to raise funds for the project. So he created these 32 life-size ghosts, and this is what they look like sitting in the church. Just saying, if I saw these in the middle of the night, it would be a different story.
Resting quietly atop a hill, at the end of a narrow winding road, is a centuries-old church filled with ghosts. But they're not exactly what you might be expecting. Let's take a look inside and go exploring past the present future. Fast forward to 2012, when art student Jacob Hadrova created a series of ghost sculptures as his bachelor's thesis. He sculpted each ghost from wire, mesh, plaster, and phosphorus. The phosphorus sometimes gives the ghosts an eerie glow after absorbing sunlight during the daytime.
Number 10, the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel is known for its purported haunted history and paranormal activity, as well as being the inspiration for Stephen King's novel The Shining. Some of the reported paranormal experiences at the Stanley Hotel include ghostly apparitions. Guests and staff have reported seeing ghostly figures and apparitions throughout the hotel, including a phantom housekeeper who still tends to room 217. Visitors have reported hearing unexplained sounds such as people giggling, ghostly laughter, and footsteps in the halls when no one else is around. Guests have reported objects moving on their own, including doors opening and closing, lights turning on and off, and the sound of furniture being moved. Some visitors have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature or being in a particular area of the hotel that is unusually cold, even though the thermostat shows a normal temperature. Some guests have reported smelling unexplained scents, such as the smell of cigar smoke or perfume, when there is no logical source for the odor. Some guests have reported experiencing flickering lights, electrical disturbances, and equipment malfunctions that cannot be explained by natural causes. While some people claim to have had paranormal experiences at the Stanley Hotel, others have reported having a peaceful and uneventful stay. It's up to each individual to decide whether they believe in the hotel's haunted history or not. Number 9, Eastern State Penitentiary. Eastern State Penitentiary is a former prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania that is now a museum. Over the years, visitors and staff have reported experiencing paranormal activity within the walls. Some of the reported experiences at Eastern State Penitentiary include some visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures moving along the walls and corridors of the prison. Many people have reported hearing unexplained sounds and voices, including footsteps, whispers, and screams. Visitors have also reported sudden drops in temperature in certain areas of the prison, even when it is not particularly cold outside. Some visitors have reported seeing cell doors open and close on their own. Visitors have reported experiencing strange smells that they cannot identify, such as the smell of burning, sulfur, or rotting flesh. Some visitors have reported feeling like they are being touched or pushed by an unseen force, or feeling a sense of unease or foreboding. It's worth noting that some people who have visited Eastern State Penitentiary have not experienced anything paranormal or unusual. However, others believe that the prison's violent history and the suffering of its inmates may have had a lingering effect that can still be felt today. Number 8, the Myrtles Plantation. Myrtles is a historic plantation located in St. Francisville, Louisiana, that is said to be one of America's most haunted houses. Visitors to the plantation have reported a variety of eerie experiences that seem to suggest the presence of ghostly activity. Many people have reported hearing the sound of footsteps walking across the floors of the plantation, even when there is no one else around. Some people reported seeing objects move on their own, including doors that open and close by themselves and chairs that seem to slide across the floor. Several ghostly apparitions have been reported at the Myrtles Plantation, including the ghost of a former owner who has been seen wandering the grounds. Visitors have reported experiencing strange smells that seem to come out of nowhere, like perfume and cigar smoke. Some people have reported hearing the sound of music coming from the empty piano in the plantation's main room. Number 7. The Queen Mary. The Queen Mary is a retired ocean liner that is now a hotel and museum in Long Beach, California. The ship has a long and storied history, including serving as a troop ship during WW2, and many people believe that it is also home to several ghosts and other supernatural phenomena. Many people have heard ghostly singing of a young woman in the first-class pool area of the ship. Visitors to the Queen Mary's engine room have reported seeing ghostly apparitions of the crew members who once worked there, including one man who appears to be covered in oil. Several guests have reported seeing the ghostly apparitions of that man and a woman in 1930s clothing, walking arm in arm down the ship's promenade deck. Many people have reported seeing orbs and light floating around the ship, especially in the areas where paranormal activity is said to be the most prevalent. Some guests have reported a feeling of a ghostly tug on their clothing or hair, as if someone is trying to get their attention. While some people remain skeptical about the reported paranormal activity on the Queen Mary, many others believe that the ship is a hotbed of supernatural phenomena, and it continues to attract ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts from around the world. Number 6. The Winchester Mystery House. The Winchester Mystery House is a sprawling mansion located in San Jose, California that was built by the widow of William Wirt Winchester, the heir to the Winchester rifle fortune. Over the years, visitors to the mansion have reported a variety of strange and unexplained experiences. One of the most unique features of the Winchester Mystery House is its seemingly endless construction. The mansion contains countless winding hallways, secret passages, and rooms that seem to serve no purpose, leading some visitors to speculate that the construction was designed to confuse or confound any spirits that might be haunting the property. Some visitors have reported seeing doors that open to reveal nothing but a sheer drop or a solid wall, leading some to speculate that they were designed to trap any ghosts or spirits that might be lurking. Many people have reported hearing strange noises in the mansion, including footsteps, voices, and banging sounds. Number 5. The Bell Witch Cave. Bell Witch Cave is a natural cave located in Adams, Tennessee, that is famous for its association with the Bell Witch, a legendary spirit that is said to have haunted the Bell family in the early 19th century. Visitors to the cave and surrounding area have reported a variety of strange experiences. Many visitors to the Bell Witch Cave have reported hearing disembodied voices and whispers in the darkness. Some visitors have reported feeling a strange energy or presence in the cave, as if someone or something is watching them. Some people have reported feeling an unseen force touching them or brushing past them in the cave. Visitors have reported seeing objects move on their own in the cave, including rocks and other debris. The Bell Witch is said to haunt not just the cave, but also the surrounding area, with some visitors reporting strange occurrences such as unexplained lights and sightings of ghostly apparitions. While some people remain skeptical of the legend of the Bell Witch, others believe that the experiences reported by visitors to the Bell Witch Cave are evidence of supernatural activity, and the cave continues to attract ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts from around the world. Number 4. The Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Massachusetts. The Lizzie Borden House is a historic bed and breakfast that was once the site of a gruesome double execution. Andrew and Abby Borden, Lizzie's father and stepmother, were brutally ended with a hatchet in the house in 1892. Visitors to the Lizzie Borden House have reported a variety of strange and unexplained experiences. Some visitors have reported feeling as though they are being watched by an unseen presence, particularly in the upstairs bedrooms where the executions took place. Several apparitions have been spotted at the Lizzie Borden house, including the apparition of a woman in Victorian clothing and the apparition of a man with a mustache. Many people have reported hearing strange noises in the house, including footsteps, knocking sounds, and the sound of doors opening and closing. Some people have felt a cold, clammy hand on their shoulder or a brush of hair against their cheek. Number 3. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Once known as the Weston State Hospital, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum stands tall as a grim reminder of the past. It was built in the mid-1800s to house patients with mental illness, but over time it became known for its overcrowding, understaffing, and the cruel treatments administered to patients. As the years passed, the asylum's conditions deteriorated and it became a place of horror and despair. Patients were subjected to inhumane treatments such as electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and hydrotherapy, which involved forcibly submerging patients in ice-cold water. The overcrowded and understaffed conditions led to many patients being neglected, left to suffer in filth and squalor. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was a place of immense suffering, and it's no surprise that it has become one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors to the asylum have reported a variety of strange experiences, including unexplained noises, ghostly apparitions, and the feeling of being watched by unseen entities. Some of the most famous ghosts said to haunt the asylum include the spirit of a young woman named Lily, who is said to have passed away in the asylum after being admitted for her immoral character, and the spirit of a former patient named Ruth, who is said to have been chained to a wall and left to pass away. Despite its dark past, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is now open to the public, and visitors can take guided tours of the asylum's abandoned wards and learn about its history. But be warned, many visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unease as they explore the asylum, and some say they have encountered the spirits of former patients still trapped within its walls. Number 2, the Whaley House. The Whaley House in San Diego, California is an architectural marvel, but it also has a dark history. The home was built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, a successful businessman, and his wife Anna. The house was built on the site of a former gallows where criminals were hanged in the early days of San Diego. Over the years, the Whaley family experienced a series of tragedies that left them haunted by the ghosts of their past. One of the most tragic events occurred in 1871, when the Whaleys' son, Thomas Jr., passed away. The family also suffered financial setbacks, and their son-in-law took their own life in the house. Today, the Whaley House is said to be one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors have reported hearing strange noises and feeling the presence of unseen entities. Many believe that the ghosts of the Whaleys and those who are executed on the gallows still linger within the house. Number 1, the Villisca Ax House. The Villisca Ax House in Iowa has a history that is shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Built in 1892, the house was once a place of happiness and joy for the Moore family, who are well-respected members of the community. But something happened within its walls that forever changed the fate of the house. Over the years, the house has become known for its paranormal activity, with many visitors reporting strange experiences and ghostly apparitions. Some say that they have seen spirits of people playing in the house, while others have heard unexplained noises and felt an eerie presence within its walls. Despite its dark past, the Villisca Ax House has been restored to its former glory and is now open to the public for tours. Visitors can explore the beautiful Victorian home and learn about its history, from the happy times of the Moore family to the tragic events that occurred within its walls. While the house may be haunted by the memories of the past, it is also a place of beauty and wonder, a testament to the rich history of Villisca and the families who once called the house their home. It's a place where visitors can step back in time and experience the joys and sorrows of a bygone era, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope in the face of tragedy.
At a number 10 spot, we have the Lizzie Borden House. Lizzie Borden has been a household name for nearly 130 years. For those who have no idea who this person is, Lizzie Borden was accused and acquitted for killing her father and stepmother with a hatchet in 1892, and the case still remains a mystery to this day. One unique aspect of the Lizzie Borden story is that you can now stay in the very home where the murders took place. Wow, how fun! The Lizzie Borden House, located in Fall River, Massachusetts, has converted into a quirky and charming bed and breakfast / museum. And some people believe that the ghosts of Lizzie, her father, and stepmother still haunt the property to this day. The CEO of US Ghost Adventures, which now owns the Lizzie Borden House, says that the guests have experienced strange occurrences such as limbs or ears being pulled and the sights of ghostly figures moving about the rooms. There has been the reports of a woman in a nightgown being seen in the Andrew and Abby suite as well, believed to be the ghost of Abby Borden herself. Even the staff of the bed and breakfast have eerie experiences on their own, with doors moving on their own and a shadow figure seen moving in the basement. The new owner even reported feeling a presence in the room he was staying in, which surrounded him, touched his leg, and pulled on the comforter that was over him. If you decide to stay at the house, there are even original artifacts on display, including books owned by Lizzie Borden and floorboards stained with Andrew Borden's blood. So definitely a great place to visit if you're just into this crazy murder stuff. At a number 9 spot, we have the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum. The New Orleans Pharmacy Museum, located at 514 Chartres Street, showcases medical contraptions and equipment that date back to the 18th and 19th centuries. But what many visitors don't know is that the museum is said to be haunted as well. One of these ghosts is said to be Dr. Joseph Dupas, which is a man who lived in the building after buying it from the Dufilo family in 1855. According to local legend, Dr. Dupas is known for performing shocking experiments on pregnant slaves and it is said that he conducted voodoo rites on the property. His ghost is said to haunt the pharmacy museum after it closes, and his spirit is said to be responsible for throwing books, moving items on display, and triggering the alarm system even in the dead of night. Some paranormal teams have claimed that pregnant women are susceptible to empathic physical reactions in the presence of this evil entity. 2 children have also been reported to haunt the museum as well. According to a story told by a museum employee, 2 children have been seen inside the building and in the courtyard behind the building. Interestingly enough, 2 of the Duffalo children, Delphine and Jules, died during the time the Duffalo family lived inside of this building. Could this explain the presence of these ghostly children? I think so. Number 8, the haunting of the bell tower. The San Francisco Art Institute is known for its rich history and artistic excellence, but there's one spot on its campus that many tend to avoid, and that is the bell tower. With its Gothic style architecture and eerie aura, the tower is rumored to be haunted by the spirits of its past. The first supernatural occurrence was reported in the 1940s when a student working as a night watchman heard footsteps coming from the stairs, but upon opening the door, found no one there but bloodstained walls. The ghostly activity continued for decades, with occasional reports of strange noises, destroyed equipment, and falling objects. Then the school started renovations in the 1960s, but the ghostly presence only grew stronger, causing the construction workers to actually quit the original job and the rentals to take much longer than expected. The school has since closed off the tower, but they have allowed psychics to perform seances on the site from time to time. One psychic claimed to have seen a graveyard at the base of the tower, which is said to have been built following the 1906 earthquake. But this didn't strike that much fear, because in 2017, the school embraced the creepy factor by hosting an exhibition inspired by the hauntings titled The Ghost of the Tower. So if they're not afraid, why don't they just open up the tower again? Number 7, the Morris Jumo Mansion. The Morris Jumo Mansion, located in Manhattan, is a mid-18th century federal style home that serves as a museum as well. It is said to be haunted by Elizabeth Jumo, the widow of Aaron Burr, and one of the richest women in New York City at the time of her death in 1865. Elizabeth Jumo was a woman of many contradictions. Born as the daughter of a sex worker, she rose to the top and became one of the richest women in New York City. She was a keen collector of art, but also on the other side of this, she also faced many rumors of murder and suspicious deaths surrounding her various husbands. Then after her passing, her ghost was said to still linger in this home, with people describing it as too stubborn to leave. In the past, the museum has hosted a Yankashana Bear exhibition that included a headless figure meant to evoke Jamil's ghost. Meanwhile, the museum has also hosted numerous open paranormal investigations. Number 6, the Palmyra Historical Museum. As the name suggests, this museum is located in the city of Palmyra, New York. This historical museum is thought to be over 200 years old and once served as a tavern and a hotel. It is now open to the public as a museum, but there's a reason why this one is on the list. The story goes that 6 days before Christmas 1964, a fire raged a small home which had Ruth Anna Breeden, her husband Paul, and 6 children inside. It was a supposed flash fire which engulfed the entire house quickly. The husband managed to escape, but the mother and her 6 children were found burnt in the basement underneath a mattress. Although the fire didn't happen in the museum per se, it sits on the home's foundation, meaning the basement is in the same place. This is why the guests claim to catch the scent of ash in the basement, because this is where the woman and her children lost their life. In the museum, guests also report toys being flown off the shelves and even feeling their hair and clothes being tucked on. Now the museum has been visited by many paranormal investigators due to the activity within, including ghost finders, ghost detectives, and various other paranormal groups. In the hump of our list, we have the War and Occult Museum. As we already talked about on our channel already, including a full top 10 about the horrific items inside this museum, and go check that out if you haven't, we have the War and Occult Museum. This museum is located in Monroe, Connecticut, and it was founded by world famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Its purpose is dedicated to preserving and displaying artifacts related to the supernatural and occult, and unfortunately it has been closed down to the public since 2019. As we see in the films, this place has objects ranging from cursed witch voodoo stuff to innocent looking toys with murderous histories. Rightfully so, the War and Occult Museum is known for its association with its own hauntings. For example, at many different times, the guests and even the Warrens believed it was haunted by the ghosts of the objects it contains, no matter how much preparation was made to prevent it from happening. Other visitors claim that the museum is actually haunted by the ghost of Ed Warren himself, who passed away. The legend says that the ghost of Ed Warren can be seen in the museum and that his presence can be felt by those who enter. Other notable objects in this museum include Annabelle the doll, the Devil Made Me Do It dinosaur toy, the Shadow doll, and real human remains. So yeah, lovely place to visit if you're into the supernatural and really cursed objects that have a small chance to kill you. Number 4, the Tuul Slang Genocide Museum. In the 1970s, this former high school was converted into the notorious S21 prison by the Khmer regime, where an estimated 20,000 prisoners were executed. The souls of the victims who were detained, starved, tortured, and then executed are said to still be roaming the S21 hall. Many unusual incidents have been reported there, including the guards who hear footsteps and chains rattling at night. Today, the school or prison has been transformed into a museum where the ghosts of the deceased are still said to haunt the halls. Of the 20,000 prisoners that experienced the horror of S21, only approximately 6 to 12 are rumored to have survived the genocide. It is said now that the museum employees even leave food out for the ghosts during their lunch breaks. They say that if you don't leave an offering, they cannot enjoy their own lunches in peace due to the loud noises and other ghostly activities that will occur after disrupting this. Number 3, the Wyoming Frontier Prison. The state of Wyoming saw its fair share of bloodshed and violence during the gold rush, when ruthless prospectors would do anything to stake their claims to riches. It was only a matter of time before the law caught up with these malicious offenders and put them behind bars. The Wyoming Frontier Prison in Rawlins, formerly the Wyoming State Penitentiary, is one of the most haunted places in the state. Operating from 1901 to 1981, the prison housed over 13,500 inmates with an estimated 200 deaths within its walls. The prison is now open for tours, and visitors report experiencing eerie encounters, from being touched on the shoulder or back to hearing voices, footsteps, and even cell doors opening and closing. One of the most notorious inmates at the Wyoming Frontier Prison was Andrew Pixley, who was sentenced to death for the brutal murder of a circuit court judge's child. Pixley went on to earn the title the longest to die by gas chamber, laughing throughout his 7-minute execution, which just sounds crazy and terrible at the same time. Today, visitors report candles going out in Pixley's cell and then suddenly relighting during ghostly tours. And on top of all this scary stuff, there's another resident of the prison, which is said to be Annie Bruce, the first woman ever convicted of murder in Wyoming. At just 14 years old, Annie poisoned her father with rat poison in a pie, killing him after 3 bites. Despite her heinous crime, she was released from prison at 18, went on to marry and start a family, but people who visit this place say that her spirit remains in this place. Number 2, the Mob Museum. At a time, Las Vegas was controlled by the mob, and some believe they still do. So it's no surprise a museum of mob activity was built to recognize some of the horrific acts they committed. All of their exploits are documented at the Mob Museum, renovated from the same downtown courthouse where many of these characters were prosecuted. The Mob Museum in Las Vegas is a fascinating attraction for those interested in organized crime. The museum houses personal artifacts, memorabilia, and old pictures of notorious mobsters and lawmen who once lived and operated in the city. With many mobsters being tried and convicted in the same courthouse, it's no surprise that the building is said to be haunted by the spirits of convicted criminals. Visitors to the museum have reported feeling a very negative energy, especially in the brick wall from St. Valentine's Day Massacre and the barber chair where Albert Anastasia was murdered. It is said that the unhappy, unconvicted mobsters and their underlings who heard their fate in the courthouse still linger in this building, as do witnesses who had to testify against them but were eventually killed. Some do believe that the spirits of the mob's countless victims come to the museum to relive their memories. Number 1, the Old Operating Theatre. Located in the garret of St. Thomas's Church, Southwark in London, on the original site of St. Thomas's Hospital, the Old Operating Theatre is a museum of surgical history and one of the oldest surviving operating theatres to this day. It was specifically designed to allow for ample light and to accommodate up to 100 students who wanted to observe surgeries and learn from the skillful surgeons. The patients who were operated on in this theater were mainly women from poor backgrounds. Despite the painfully and potentially deadly nature of the surgeries, they were still sought after due to the high cost of medical treatment at the time. Today, the Old Operating Theatre serves as a restored museum and is a popular attraction due to its dark and gruesome history. The museum has been the source of many ghost stories, with some claiming to have seen the apparition of an elderly lady in black who is said to be crying and wailing inside these walls. Another ghostly woman, known as the Woman in White, has been spotted roaming the halls inside of the museum. In addition to the ghostly sightings, there's also been strange occurrences within the museum, such as a sudden noise from the herb garrets and all the cabinet doors and drawers opening on their own, which left one staff member frightened and running out of the museum the first day they were at the job. At number 10 spot, we have the Taunton State Hospital. The Taunton State Hospital is a notorious psychiatric hospital located in Taunton, Massachusetts. The hospital opened its doors in 1854, and over the years, it bore witness to hundreds of psychiatric patients, including a couple of notorious serial killers, and unfortunately, many of these people would lose their lives in this hospital. Sadly, innocent people such as veterans, those with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Tourette's, and even women experiencing anxiety, depression, and fatigue were admitted to this hospital, and conditions were far from good for treating them. The hospital used pseudosciences like phrenology to cure patients, but that was the lightest thing done here. They also use solitary confinement, electroshock therapy, and lobotomies as common practices. Today, Taunton State Hospital and its surrounding grounds are on the Registry of Historic Places, and even though most of the historic buildings have been demolished or destroyed by a fire, there are rumors that a notorious satanic cult operated the hospital and even conducted dark rituals and even human sacrifices in the basement of the place. The hospital is considered to be one of the most haunted asylums in America, with strange and unexplained markings on the walls of the basements, and with ghostly screams, cries for help, and sobbing being commonly reported on the hospital grounds and even the surrounding woods. The entire campus is deemed haunted and is referred to as the most haunted asylum. At our number 9 spot, we have the Severals Hospital. The Severals Hospital in Colchester, Essex, England has nothing special about it other than a history of pure tragedy. Built in 1913, the hospital was designed by architects Frank Whitmore and William Town, and was initially opened as a second Essex County asylum. However, this beautiful building soon witnessed the horrors of war when it was bombed by the Luftwaffe in 1942, resulting in the deaths of 38 patients. Then in the 1950s, psychiatrists carried out inhumane experiments on the patients that were at the hospital. These were often done on people who were mainly healthy, they were admitted by their own families or friends for non-medical reasons. Electroconvulsive therapy and frontal lobotomies were carried out here as well, and women were subjected to these treatments simply because they're unable to carry out daily tasks, resulting in them being considered insane. Then in the early 1980s, the hospital went into a state of decline and was eventually closed in 1997. Despite plans to redevelop the area into residential homes, most people are so hesitant to live in a place where so much tragedy has occurred, and I can't blame them. The building has now fallen into a state of disrepair, with vines climbing its walls and an eerie feeling of abandonment. Urban explorers visiting the site have reported hearing the screams of a woman and encountering full-bodied apparitions and even brightly colored orbs. These hauntings serve as a reminder of the terror and trauma that took place here, reminding us that people who treated mental health back in the past didn't know what they were doing. All the way at our number 8 spot, we have the Danvers State Hospital. The Danvers State Hospital, also known as the Danvers State Lunatic Asylum, is a historically significant mental health institution located in rural Massachusetts, but it's also considered by many to be the most haunted hospital in the entire US. At its height, the hospital was overcrowded and used inhumane treatments such as shock therapy, lobotomies, and straitjackets to control its population. Then in 2007, a large fire destroyed much of the remaining building, leaving only the brick shell standing. The land that Danvers was built on also has a dark history to it, as it once was home to John Hathorne, the judge who presided over the Salem witch trials himself. But back to the hospital. It saw abuse, neglect, and trauma over its lifetime, which led to more overcrowding issues and more inhumane treatment of its patients. And this is probably the reason why every visitor comes out of this place with a ghostly story of their own. Visitors to the property report paranormal activity and mention apparitions, disembodied voices, and strange myths that seem to appear from nowhere. The 2 cemeteries on the property, filled with 770 bodies, are also hotbeds of ghostly activity, as you would already guess. Whether it's the day spirits of the lobotomy patients or something else entirely, the Danvers State Hospital is sure to send shivers down the spines of even the bravest of paranormal enthusiasts. On to number 7 spot, we have the Royal Hope Hospital. The Royal Hope Hospital in St. Augustine, Florida is one of the oldest hospitals in the States, with roots dating back to the late 1700s. So you know what that means? It was used during the Civil War as well. It was serving as a military hospital and treated thousands of wounded soldiers. The modern hospital was rebuilt on the same ground as the original structure, which some believe could explain the numerous ghostly encounters reported by guests and staff members over the years. One of the most notable haunted areas of the hospital is the mourning room, where family members would gather to remember their loved ones. This room is said to be filled with the hospital's priest tools for blessing the dead and is known for its ghostly voices, which can be heard praying, sobbing, and moaning. Another haunted area is the surgeon's office, where a spirit is said to grab onto visitors' clothes and refuse to let go. In the ward, beds are reported to move on their own and hit visitors, while the apothecary is known for its shadows darting from wall to wall and the sound of a sobbing spirit in the room. Other ghostly occurrences at the Royal Hope Hospital include full-blown apparitions, voice recordings from paranormal enthusiasts, moving objects, unexplained bruises, and orbs that follow visitors all around the hospital. There's also been reports of unexplained marching sounds down the hospital hallways, which may be residual from its time as a military hospital. Overall, the Royal Hospital is a prime example of how the intense emotions and suffering of the past can leave a lasting imprint on a location and contribute to its haunted reputation. So definitely go check this place out if you have nothing better to do. Number 6, the Sunland Hospital. The Sunland Mental Hospital was once a chain of hospitals all across Florida, which established in the 1950s to isolate and cure for patients with tuberculosis. But as tuberculosis became less of a public health issue, the state converted the facilities into mental health institutions, and this is when the hospitals went from good to bad. Among those hospitals, Sunland Hospital Orlando was especially notorious for its horrid conditions and maltreatment of its patients, which even escalated to outright physical abuse and torture. By the 1980s, the world knew about the horrible conditions, and Sunland Orlando was eventually closed and left to decay. The abandoned building quickly became a meta for ghost hunters, as visitors reported hearing screams and seeing shadows everywhere they went, many of which seemed to originate from children. Even in 1997, a man even plunged to his death in an elevator shaft while exploring the hospital with his friends, and many people believe that the ghost tempted him to do this in the first place. The main building was eventually demolished in 1999, but the administration building still stands to this day, attracting ghost hunters all around the world. The former site of the actual Sunland Hospital is now a children's playground, and nighttime visitors have reported seeing ghostly apparitions of children near the area and swings moving on their own, which is presumably by the children themselves. So just another unsettling reason not to visit Florida. In the hub of our list, we have the St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital. The St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital opened in 1939 and served over 1,700 patients. The institution was then abandoned in the summer of 2013, and a new mental health facility was developed soon after to replace it. In the time the facility was active, it housed a few notorious patients who committed violent deeds, including impaling, strangling, and torturing other patients or co-workers. People claim to hear random sounds, which include banging, crying, and even whispering, and seeing flickering lights and moving objects during their visits. Today there is heightened security at the site, but it may be possible to have a short wander across the grounds where the old hospital once stood during daylight hours. But I recommend not going there just in case, because this place looks pretty bad. All the way down at our number 4 spot, we have the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital. The Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, originally named the New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum, has a long history of helping mentally ill patients and even harming them. The hospital opened in 1849 and welcomed 86 patients initially. The first superintendent, Horace Butolph, was a good man and provided excellent care for the people around him. Then it took a turn for the worse when Dr. Henry Cotton took over. The doctor believed he could cure mental illness by removing organs. He believed that infections caused mental illness, so he tested it by removing his patients' teeth, limbs, or any body part with slight signs of infection. This would cause dozens of patients to pass away, and many claim that you can still hear the screams of these patients inside of the walls of the hospital to this day. Others even claim to see the apparition of Dr. Cotton himself and other ghosts with missing limbs. Unfortunately, after his passing in 1933, a review found his medical procedures caused 45% of his patients to perish. The irony was, the doctor was clinically insane as well. Number 3, the Old Tua Hospital. The Old Tua Hospital in Utah was originally built as a private residence by Samuel F. Lee in 1873, but it was later converted into a poorhouse for the elderly in 1913. Then we fast forward to 1953, and the new Tua Hospital was constructed, and the original building was torn down. And this is when the haunting originated. The new hospital served as both a public hospital and an elderly care facility until it was converted into the popular tourist attraction Asylum 49. The Old Tua Hospital was plagued by funding issues, with bodies of the deceased being stored in unrefrigerated rooms until the county coroner arrived to sign their death certificates. Asylum 49 is now a popular haunted attraction for many paranormal enthusiasts, with many reports of strange occurrences from visitors and employees, and one of the most commonly reported ghosts here is a patient named Wes, who suffered from Alzheimer's and died in a confused and scared state. Another ghost, Samuel F. Lee, the one who used to own the place, is said to roam the halls as well, telling visitors of his good deeds and seeking recognition for them. A nurse in white named Maria is also said to guard a spirit portal that directs the deceased to the afterlife. Number 2, the Clark Air Base Hospital. This is one of the few places deemed to be haunted not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world by Ghost Hunters International. Season 1, episode 20, named Unknown Soldiers, if you guys want to check out the episode. The hospital was used during World War II and the Vietnam War, so you already know this has all sorts of death and all sorts of tragedy. It served as an asylum to the wounded and dying American soldiers. This is why people around the world claim it is the most haunted place in the Philippines. It's said that the traumas and countless deaths from those conflicts have left their mark on the spirit's presence in the hospital. The place is currently abandoned, which gives it more of a supernatural look to it, but it's said that if you visit the hospital and sleep within 8 hours after the visit, you will experience extreme nightmares and intense lucid dreaming for a week, and some people don't even get out of this. Number 1, the Linda Vista Hospital. Here's a hospital on this list that's actually still open and operating. The Linda Vista Hospital, located in Los Angeles, California, is a medical center that has a long and storied history. Originally built as a Santa Fe Coast Lines Hospital in 1905, the hospital was designed for the employees of the Santa Fe Railroad and was one of Los Angeles' oldest medical facilities. Over the years, the hospital saw a decline in funding and patients and eventually ceased all operations in 1991. In the years following its closure, the hospital gained a reputation for being extremely haunted. With stories of shadows walking around, nighttime cries, and disembodied humming, many people believe the hospital to be haunted by the spirits of its former patients and staff. There's also been allegations of patient abuse here that have never been fully investigated, and to this day, we'll never know, because all the past documents in this place have either been destroyed or have gone missing. Today, the former hospital is actually a senior living facility and is now not open to visitors for obvious reasons. But still, many ghost hunters still request, and some have been lucky to investigate this haunting place at night and have reported all sorts of activity. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the Daring Woods. Located in the heart of Pluckley, Kent, lies a dense woodland with a very tragic past. The Daring Woods, also known as the Screaming Woods, has garnered worldwide attention due to many reports of screams that just seem to echo throughout the forest at night. The origins of the screams and other paranormal activity in the forest still remain a complete mystery to all the locals, but some say it's the spirits of a massacre that occurred in these woods on November 1st, 1948. This is when 20 people were found dead, 11 whom were children. They presented no wounds, and after an investigation was done, they stated the cause being carbon monoxide poisoning. Others speculate that it could be the spirit of Robert Dubois, who was a notorious highwayman who killed in these woods in the 18th century. Witnesses have reported seeing a figure in a long black coat and boots, which they believe to be the ghost of Dubois, and some have even claimed that they see him screaming at them when they have encounters, which would explain the Screaming Woods name. And it doesn't stop there, because in 1964, private investigator Robert Collins conducted interviews and discovered an unknown religious cult operating in these woods. But before he can complete any of his findings, he tragically passed away from a car accident. Ever since, the reputation of the Screaming Woods has gone beyond the borders of Britain and has been featured in many shows like Ghost Hunters International and even Top Gear. Visitors from all over the world have been drawn to this forest in just the hope of experiencing a paranormal encounter, and if you do dare to visit, maybe you'll get a chance to hear those lovely screams echoing throughout. Number 9, we have the Pine Barrens. Spanning over 1.1 million acres, the Pine Barrens in New Jersey are a rural and scenic stretch of land that is also known to have an abundance of ghosts and all sorts of supernatural creatures. The most famous paranormal Pine Barrens resident is the Jersey Devil, and I've talked about this guy in the past, but for those who don't know, he is a demonic creature said to have wings, hooves, a horse-like head, claws, a forked tail, and a terrifying scream. Local legend says that the Jersey Devil was the 13th child of Deborah Leeds, which is a lady born in 1735. When she gave birth, many believed her to be cursed and thought her child was the literal spawn of Satan. Reports of the Jersey Devil sightings date back all the way to 1820, and the creature was blamed for livestock killings in the 1840s and again in the 1920s. The most famous incident of panic over the Jersey Devil occurred in 1909, with hundreds of sightings and attacks reported, leading to a widespread hysteria. But the Jersey Devil devil is only the start of the supernatural entities that haunt the Pine Barrens. The ghost of a small boy is also said to haunt the Atco area, roaming Burnt Mill Road, searching for his killer. As well, James Still, an African-American doctor during the time of slavery, was lynched by locals when they found out he was practicing medicine. Legend says that he now roams the Pine Barrens as a friendly ghost, assisting those who are lost or even injured in the area. Other ghosts include a blonde woman, a white stag, a black dog, and even the headless spirit of an infamous pirate, Captain Kidd. So if you ever happen to stumble in New Jersey, try your best to avoid getting lost in these woods. At our number 8 spot, we have the Epping Forest. The Epping Forest, located in England, is a 6,000 acre forest that has a dark history and has been the hideout of many dangerous criminals and murderers over the years. One of these includes Ronald Jepson, a sick pedophile and a murderer who targeted many children in this forest. Highwayman Richard Turpin has committed multiple murders in this forest as well, so best believe that hundreds of bodies were buried in the Epping Forest over the years. Those who decide to take a hike in this forest report hearing blood-curdling screams at night, footsteps, and whispers on foggy days telling them to leave immediately. But perhaps the most haunting area of Epping Forest is the suicide pool. Legend has it that a girl was killed by her father at the pool over 300 years ago after he found out she was meeting a boy in secret. Her lover later took his life at the same spot. Since then, there's been multiple people taking their own lives in this area, including that of a woman named Emma Morgan who killed her child and herself at this pond. Locals say that the pool has an evil force within its dark waters that just seems to compel people to take their own lives, and also no birds or animals have been heard near the spot, which gives it this more supernatural feeling when you come close to it. At our number 7 spot, we have the Freetown Fall River State Forest. The Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts is a part of a 200 square mile area known as the Bridgewater Triangle. This place is notorious for Bigfoot sightings, UFO encounters, and even paranormal activity. The forest was once occupied by Native Americans in the 1600s who left behind some burial grounds when they were forced to leave it. And this is another reason why many people believe this is part of what makes the forest so eerie. Now, since the 1900s, there's been reports of bodies found all over these woods, including a young girl who was tied to a tree and left there for dead in 1978. The killer was eventually caught and convicted, but many people believe the forest exerts a dark influence that drives people to do bad things and even commit murder. On top of that, the forest is also believed to have been used for satanic murders in the 1970s and the 80s. But as mentioned, there has been reports of UFO sightings as well, poltergeists, and even fireballs in the sky. Even President Reagan claimed to have seen things in these woods when he decided to take a visit. He claimed to have seen strange lights in the sky that almost seemed to be following him and his group. Number 6, the Hoya Forest. The Hoya Forest in Transylvania is a place that is believed by many to be the most haunted forest in the world. For decades, locals and visitors alike have reported strange and unexplained experiences after entering this frightening forest. Located just west of the city of Cluj-Napoca, the Hoya Forest has trees that are warped, bent, twisted, and contorted into nightmarish shapes that seem to defy the laws of nature. The forest's abnormal atmosphere has earned it the nickname Romania's Bermuda Triangle. The forest name itself references its mysterious past. It was named after a local shepherd who disappeared in the forest with his flock of about 200 sheep and was never seen again. For years, strange stories about people vanishing into the Hoya Forest remained local lore, but in 1968, a Soviet military technician named Emil Barnia claimed to have taken pictures of a UFO hovering above a clearing in the forest. This claim is different than most UFO sightings because Emil Barnia has nothing to gain from reporting it, but he had everything to lose. As well, in the center of the forest, there's a mysterious near-perfect circular patch where nothing but grass grows. The clearing, as it is called, attracts all sorts of strange people to the bizarre forest, which include Romanian witches, the death-obsessed, and even the occasional group looking to open a portal to another dimension. Just a regular thing, right? Scientists have tested soil from the clearing, but there seems to be no physical difference that would keep trees from growing there. This has further fueled the rumors that the forest is haunted and full of paranormal power. People who enter the forest today regularly report really odd symptoms like headaches, anxiety, nausea, and the unshakable feeling that they're being watched the entire time they're walking there. Electronic devices have also been known to fail there as well, and some have even seen ghostly spirits lurking behind the deformed trees that I mentioned earlier. In the hump of our list, we have the Black Forest. The Black Forest is more than just a simple forest. It's an entire mountain range located in the southwest of Germany. Due to its age and vast expanse, the Black Forest has become the subject of numerous urban legends and stories, including the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. For instance, there are tales of supposed sea creatures who lure unsuspecting travelers to their watery graves. As well as stories about a large gathering of Celtic ghosts haunting a local graveyard in this place. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. There's even a story of an ancient king who lives underwater and decides to drag women into the water with him. And the Black Forest's creepy atmosphere is not only due to its myths and legends. The forest's thick and dense fir trees cast deep shadows on the ground, creating this eerie and perpetual darkness that only adds to its sense of foreboding. Those who call this area their home report themselves as the guardians of this grotto, tasked with protecting it from those who seek to exploit its natural resources or even disrupt its delicate balance. Could there be truth in the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm stories, or is this place's mystery all just fictional? Let me know in the comments. All the way at a number 4 spot, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located in the dense forest of Harper Crossroad area in Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a camping ground known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I know, the name alone should tell you all about this place, because in local lore, they suggest this is the location where the devil, quote, tramps, and this has caused a small circle of area to become lifeless and never have the ability to grow anything. Locals have tried to revive the area by planting various seeds and using fertilizers, but nothing seems to be able to fully grow within this circle of land. Some historians believe that this was also an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes, and they would come here to do ceremonial dances and all sorts of other festivals. However, in the 1930s, newspapers were hit with the news that a beast was guarding the grounds, and the story reads, quote, "Coon and possum hunters and their dogs have been on more than one occasion chased from the vicinity of the Devil's Tramping Ground by a ferocious beast said to resemble a black bear." Number 3, Dao Hill. Located in the northeastern region of India, between the borders of Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, lies a forest that will make you feel scared and uncomfortable the entire hike. The forest, known as Dao Hill, is considered one of the most haunted spots in India, and for good reason. Visitors to this forest have reported feeling a sense of being watched, almost as if the eyes are following their every move. Some have even claimed to catch glimpses of strange movements in their periphery, only to turn and find nothing there. However, the occurrences don't stop there. There's also been reports of a screaming woman in the woods, and several visitors have even claimed to see red eyes peeking at them from the trees. But perhaps the most famous ghost sighting in Dao Hill is that of a headless boy who has been seen wandering through the forest and down the street known as Death Road. Even the high school situated beside the woods is believed to be haunted as well. Many students claim to hear loud whispers coming from inside the lockers and footsteps during the closed months. So best believe not only the woods are haunted, but this entire area is haunted by ghosts. Number 2, the Island of the Dolls. Nestled between the serene canals of Xochimilco in Mexico lies the Island of the Dolls, a place that looks scary in pictures and even worse in person. And the obvious reason is because the island is home to hundreds of abandoned dolls, which at first glance may seem eerie, but their presence is actually a result of a sorrowful story. But back to the scary part. According to the legend, the island is haunted by the spirit of a young girl who died there in mysterious circumstances. As well, visitors to the island have reported that the dolls' heads and arms move, and also report their eyes opening and closing, leading to some believing that the girl's spirit still clings on to these dolls. However, the true story behind the dolls is far more poignant. Don Julian Santana Barrera, the island's caretaker, stumbled upon the body of a young girl near the canals one day. He then saw a doll floating in the water that he believed belonged to the girl, and in memory of her, he hung the doll from a nearby tree. And this was just the beginning. He began to hang more dolls in an attempt to appease her spirit, as well as to appease other entities he believed that were present on the island. Sadly, Barrera passed away in 2001, but his legacy lives on as the Island of the Dolls has since become a very popular tourist attraction. Number 1, the Okigiri Forest. The Okigiri Forest, also known as the Sea of Trees, sits right along the edge of Mount Fuji, roughly a 2-hour drive west of Tokyo. At the entrance of the forest, you are greeted by a sign that reminds visitors that life is a precious gift from their parents. Okigiri's dark reputation has been around for decades, and if you don't know about it, here it is. Legend has it that in the older times, when food was in short supply and the situation grew desperate, a family might take a dependent elderly relative, typically a woman, to a remote location and leave her to pass away. At first, the ghost visitors have claimed they saw in Okigiri were presumed to be vengeful spirits of the old who had been abandoned to starvation and the mercy of the elements. But that all began to change in the 1960s. More than 100 people who were not from the area surrounding Okigiri took their own lives there between 2013 and 2015. Countrywide, people who took their own lives there roughly total around 24,000 people in the year 2015 alone, according to the country's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. These numbers don't include the amount of people who attempted there also, and this is just a really sad fact. And with all these people taking their lives in these woods, it's not really hard to believe that this place is extremely haunted, so best believe to take care if you decide to visit this forest. At a number 10 spot, we have Iroquois Park. If you go to Louisville's 735-acre Iroquois Park in the middle of the night, you might spot a pretty horrifying apparition. This apparition is known as the Headless Woman of Kentucky. According to the legend, a farmer's wife was alone in her home in Iroquois Park while her husband was away on work. Soon after, her home was attacked by a native tribe and they ended up executing her and their family dog. Except not only did they murder her, they cut off her head and kept it somewhere inside of this park. Nowadays, she can be seen past midnight walking through a thick fog as she holds her severed head. And this is not all. The park has been the scene of many unsolved murders and other disappearances. So this place, despite being very beautiful, is a place you shouldn't stroll through after dark. Seems like both the living and the dead are after you here. At a number 9 spot, we have the Auckland Domain. In the heart of Auckland is a public park known as Auckland Domain, and at first glance, this park is beautiful with stunning gardens and impressive trees. But aside from all of that, this place has a very dark history attached to it. Inside of this park is a sculpture that is quite different from others you may see. That's because this sculpture is that of 3 witches who were brutally executed inside of this park during the early 1800s. I mean, this was a time where witchcraft was believed by many, and unfortunately, a lot of people would fall victim to this hysteria. So sometime during the 1800s, 3 accused witches were caught by the townsfolk and hanged inside of this park. From what we do know now, these people were probably normal, and due to this unjust death, it's said that their spirits still wander the park grounds. In some parts of the park, visitors report hearing distant cackling made by a group of ladies, and others report seeing a tall, thin figure wandering through the trees, which many believe are the witches. If you do go deep in the woods at night, it's no surprise if you come out covered in scratches and cuts like something had scratched you with long, sharp claws. At a number 8 spot, we have the Great Otways National Park. Supposedly, there have been alleged sightings of this big cat here in the Great Otways National Park in Australia. These supposed sightings have been documented since 1830s, ranging from rumors of big cats in the bush by New Eastern migrants to sworn testimonies and videos taken in more recent years. All have given the legendary creature a similar description. A large black 4-legged creature, very similar to a panther, but not a panther. Some explanations have a historical exotic animal traits or an evolutionary trail of feral cats in the area, while others have suggested that they may have come from traveling circuses or visiting soldiers years ago. Regardless, these beasts are said to live in the Great Otways National Park, so just in case there weren't enough things to worry about in Australia, here's another one. At a number 7 spot, we have Stanley Park. Stanley Park in Vancouver, Canada offers both tourists and locals a vast natural forest, beautiful beaches, and great hiking spots. However, beyond the sunshine and rainbow, much of the park has been infested with the spirits of its past. For example, the rowing club in the park is said to be built on burial grounds of early Chinese immigrants, and ever since the construction of this building, the rowing club has claimed that their clubhouse is haunted by these disturbed spirits. Then we have the Lions Gate Bridge in the park, which has been a place where many have claimed their own lives, including a place where many ships sank in the waters below. Here, visitors claim to hear disembodied voices coming from underneath the bridge and along the seawall. Then we have Dead Man's Island, which is just speculated in mystery. From a battleground to a burial ground where smallpox victims would be buried, this island is a place you would not want to be stuck on. At a number 6 spot, we have Pierre Marquette State Park. Illinois' Pierre Marquette State Park spans an area of about 8,000 acres, and this includes a cliff area known as Lover's Leap. This cliff overlooks both the Illinois and Mississippi rivers, and if I didn't tell you about this next story, I bet you would have wanted to catch the view. But let me change your mind real quick. The legend goes that an Indian brave and a maiden of another tribe fell in love. And despite the fact that both of their tribes absolutely despise one another, the tribes had set up so many walls that they even used starvation as a tactic of war. Because of this divide, the two were forced to stay away from one another, and the chiefs of each tribe forbid them from marrying one another. No exceptions. So just like Romeo and Juliet, the two met up one last time at Lover's Leap and proceeded to jump off the cliff together because they thought if we can't have each other, then no one can. Now couples who go near this cliff have the sudden urge to jump off with their partner, even if they come to the area completely happy with no personal issues. In the hump of our list, we have Oak Hammock Park. Inside Florida's own Oak Hammock Park sits an old oak tree that locals believe is evil and could be a little bit cursed as well. Or more accurately, that something evil occurred there and still haunts the land. Story goes that in 1971, before the park was even established, Gerard Schaefer, an ex-deputy for the Broward County Sheriff's Office, assaulted and took the lives of two 19-year-old girls, Colette Goodenough and Barbara Ann Wilcox. He then buried them beneath an old oak tree. He was arrested for homicide and stabbed till he passed away in prison in 1995. The girls had been missing since January 1973, but their bodies weren't discovered until 1977, when two fishermen noticed bones protruding from the ground. Local legends and ghost stories about the area include claims of blood-curdling screams erupting from the surrounding woods, ghostly apparitions, and camera malfunctions near the Devil's Tree. Police have responded to numerous calls claiming devil worshippers in hooded robes were performing rituals there. And in 1993, the local pastor conducted an exorcism and even put up a cross at the site. Numerous efforts to cut down the tree even failed, with chainsaws malfunctioning and even axes breaking. Ever since, it's been kept up as a historical site, but they still believe in its evil intentions. At number 4 spot, we have Trollwood Park. In Fargo, North Dakota is the Trollwood Park, and at first glance, it looks very nice, right? Well, it was built directly on top of a cemetery. Obviously, those who built the park knew of this and already planned to move many of the bodies away, but it's confirmed that they didn't manage to take all of them out, which is not a good thing. As briefly mentioned, the Cass County Hospital is built on the park around 1895, and over the years, many people were left buried with no tombstones or even a marking of their location, which is why many remain in this park to this day. One notorious ghost that haunts the area is that of a woman dressed in a blue dress that dances around the trees. And other visitors claim that the ghosts here like to call out names in order to get people to lay them to rest. In one instance, erosion caused one of the graves to resurface, causing one visitor to trip on real human bones. Number 3, Hummel Park. Despite being a very beautiful park in appearance, there's a much darker story to it that makes you think twice before stepping foot here. This area is said to be the place where many lynchings, hangings, and satanic rituals were performed, and some believe they are still happening to this day deep within the woods of this park. A stairway in this park has been known to be called the Stairway to Hell, because it's reported that it's impossible to count the same number of steps ascending the stairs as descending the stairs. And there's also the report that a group of albino people inhabit the woods deep in the park. They're believed to be either a large family or a collective group of homeless people, but there haven't been any reported attacks by them, so they're pretty much harmless. Other than the fact that this place is covered in satanic graffiti, this place is just one of those places you just shouldn't test out. You know, just in case. Number 2, we have Candy Cane Park. Located in La Grande, Oregon is the Candy Cane Park, otherwise known to locals as Hatchet Park, due to the accident that happened within the park grounds. Candy Cane Park was like any other park, apart from the fact that it followed the theme of candy canes all throughout. Kids love to go to this park due to its appearance alone, but it all changed in 1983. This is when a young woman named Dana DeMars was strolling through the park at night, when all of a sudden someone came out of the woods with a hatchet and started to chop off her limbs, including an attempt to behead her. She ended up passing away from her injuries in the park at the young age of 21. Now locals claim that her spirit calls the park home. She would be seen on the merry-go-round, and when children would go on it, she would spin it uncontrollably. Her presence on the merry-go-round was so noticeable that the park even removed it for good in 2003. The park still remains intact, and many people in the park think twice before playing here now. Number 1, Barnard Park. Barnard Park appears to be a wonderful location where families take their kids on the weekends. However, few people are aware that the park is also one of Nebraska's most terrifying haunted locations. The grounds of Barnard Park was once used as a cemetery in the 19th century, and in that same period, Vermont's population increased significantly beyond the cemetery's capacity, which prompted the city to close it and move it. According to reports, while the city moved the dead, some of them were unintentionally left behind. People claim to have witnessed a lady sobbing that night, and their ghosts are still said to remain in that area.